All right, guys, how you all doing? Welcome to another episode of Motivation to Change podcast. And today's guest needs no introduction. He is the founder of For Networking, and he is the #1 motivational business speaker. Please welcome Brad Burton.
Hello, Sean. How you doing, friend?
How are you doing?
Kicking ass. It's been a strange old 19 months, hasn't it?
Oh, it has. It's been crazy. Hopefully things are starting to pick up. How's it been for you over the last couple of months?
So last couple of months have been all right. 15th of, I think it was March, 15th of March, my business is about £2 million turnover a year. And then come the 16th of March 2020, my businesses were £0. So, COVID has been a massive impact on us, and we're just starting to rebuild now and get that network back. So it's been a challenging 19, 20 months, but last couple of months, as you say, I started to see it come round and start turning back round.
Yeah, no, definitely. And hopefully the only way to go now is up. But yeah, no, there might be a hell of a lot of people that know who you are. Some people might not. So what we're just going to do is, with myself, I've watched quite a lot of your videos and all your speeches and stuff. But I'd love to get down into the nitty gritty and talk about yourself, the man behind Brad Burton. And just we'll start off with kind of upbringing, were born, and take it from there.
All right, boss. So I was born 1973, child of the 70s, brought up on the council estates of Salford, Manchester. My dad left when I was 6 months old. My mum brought me up as a single parent, and my stepdad stepped in. Amazing guy, genuinely amazing guy. And I left school with no qualifications, got involved in the wrong crowd, which actually the wrong crowd at the time, in all fairness, was probably the right crowd, a bit of fun. And it culminated in me getting shot at when I was 21 years old over in Manchester, and it caused me to move away, which was the worst day of my life. But actually, when I look at it now, if it wasn't for me moving away from Salford, Manchester, I may not have ended up writing books and starting my own business, meeting my wife, and just everything happens for a reason, Sean. And sometimes even the shitty stuff makes no sense whatsoever until it's in your rearview mirror.
Yeah, no, definitely. And sometimes we don't know what happens in life. It's like everything happens for a reason.
100%.
Maybe that incident, shot.
Well, I think about that. We've got a delay here, Sean. So that's what I think the struggles is. But I think that whole thing is that when I look at my life, and actually it was the worst day of my life, and it actually turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me, which is crazy,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you don't mind, what was the backstory with you almost getting shot at?
It's not a fun story, if I'm honest. I'd be lovely and jovial to say, yeah, I was involved in this, that, and ever. It's not a fun story. If anyone's interested in that, it's in chapter 2 of my book, Get Off Your Arse 2. And I'm genuinely, it's one of those questions where every time I answer it, people wish that we'd never listened to it. So that's how good it was, that story. So I'd rather not get into that. But if you are interested, chapter 2 of Get Off Your Arse 2. But needless to say, not great circumstances, if I'm honest.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. So 21 years old, you move away. What was your life like at that point? I know it was quite a long time until you started.
That's right.
Networking and stuff.
Yeah. So
what was the process?
So I was 21 when I first moved down, maybe 22, and didn't start my business till I was 30, 31. So for those 9 years, I spent a few years on benefits, really just letting the days go by. And I always remember I was in a bedsit when I first moved to Weston-super-Mare, and I couldn't afford to have the fire on. It was that cold at the winter, a single glazing, and you could see your breath, and I couldn't afford to have the fire on because I didn't have enough electric key. So all these kind of things never kind of lost me. So I did that, and then I somehow managed to blag my way into a job in retail as a manager. And that was really the kind of starting point for me realizing that I could be a better version of me. Started that, then got into marketing, and then ended up becoming a director of a company. So this as a job. So I managed to do really well. I always had something about me, charisma or confidence, but for whatever reason, I never quite deployed that appropriately.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And with did you have that kind of mindset at a young age of like when you wanted to do something, you
Um,
would put everything into it?
Well, no, I think the kind of mindset came from really that whole ability to be able to. I was always good at whatever I did. Back in the old days, it was getting into nightclubs for free. It was, chatting up girls. It was partying, and I was always good at whatever I focused at. And actually, that ended up changing as I got older, and I kind of started getting my focus into something that was sustainable, building a business, building a reputation, building a brand. And I think that's so. I've always had that skill. I've always had a skill, but it was about where you kind of employed it, and I'd never really focused it before until such a time when I started my own business off.
Yeah, and with the job that you were in, how long were you in that job for?
2 years roughly, 2 years with the retail outlet, but I was exceptional as a as a retail manager. I really was. It was almost like running it almost like a casino, having like a pit team. So what I'd be a pit boss, I'd stand at the front of this game shop. It was a computer game shop, and as people came through, I'd say hello, buddy. So that would stop people thieving, but would also acknowledge people as they'd come through. And then I'd wait for them to pick up a game on the off the shelf. I'd say it was FIFA '97 or whatever. Oh, it was a cracking game that. I played it last night. So there's always a little bit of pattern, a bit of story that increased sales, and we ended up becoming the biggest. The highest sales of the 12 branches, and our store was half the size of the big one in Bristol. So I was doing something right, at which point they then kind of asked me if I'd wanted to be a regional manager, and that's what I became.
Amazing stuff. And the idea of running your own business, did you have that idea while you were working there, or was that kind of furthermore down the line?
No, 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 no. I mean, no one's ever born into any profession that they end up becoming. Whatever you become, no one's ever born with that sort of skills. My careers officer never said to me, "Hey, Brad, you make for a great motivational speaker." But somewhere along the way, I kind of fell into it. I was doing lots of my networking events and speaking at each of those networking events. And by default, I just kind of ended up becoming a motivational speaker because people said, "You're so inspirational, you're so motivational." I'm like, I don't understand why and how people are saying that. But then I realized that my story, the one that I was reluctant to share, was really where the future needed to be. So I kind of fell into the motivational speaking, if I'm honest, in the same way that I fell into networking. In fact, I fell into everything, and every single one of us has the opportunity of opportunities that come our way. But whether we see them or not, it's a different ball game. And one of the things that I teach people to do is to see those opportunities that previously you might have walked past them.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. You don't really know where life will take you.
True story, Sean.
Just yeah, definitely. Um, Now, you've been the manager for 2 years. Was it something that you kept at, or were you wanting to go further afield? And was this round about the time you found for networking?
Yeah, no, I did really well in that role, and the reason that I kind of moved on, it was the kind of dot-com era, about 2000, when everything was like flying off, and I ended up blagging myself into a job as a head of marketing for a company called EasyNet, which was a big floated company at the time, and this was the dot-com boom. So I got once again a grounding from that, and this is what you've got to do. You've got to kind of leapfrog from one opportunity to another opportunity to another opportunity, and that's what I did. I ended up becoming like head of marketing for this brand called UK Online, which was the equivalent of AOL, America Online, and I did really well there. And so many people were offering me roles. I mean, I could not move for the amount of people offering me jobs, and they ended up moving to Oxford for a job as a really well-paid job. I didn't enjoy Oxford, so I lasted 6 months there, and then went on the dole after that. So I was then back on the dole again after doing a 2 year stint. I think I did another 6 months there.
how was that? Must have been such a change from being a manager at a big company to
Mm.
then just go and living off.
Yeah. So the thing is
Yeah,
with that, the thing is with that is that somewhere along the way is that I probably still deciding who I was. Was I the old guy who'd go on benefits, or was I this entrepreneur? And I think I was caught in that crossroads there. So I ended up getting a job after that 6 month stint, and I was 3 days away from bankruptcy. I was £25,000 in personal debt, 3 days away from bankruptcy, and I said to my wife, if I don't get a job by 6 months, I'm going to go bankrupt. And I got a job 3 days before I was due to go bankrupt, which is amazing. And I lasted probably 6 months with that job. Told my employer to shove his job up his arse. I was unemployable, and I kind of walked, and I started my own business off, and that was December the 16th, 17th, 2004. I walked out of that job. So what are we now? 20. So it's literally 16 years ago, something like that. 17 years ago.
yeah, yeah. Oh, that's and something came into my head there. I don't know if this is round about the time, but it's made me really think, and it's quite weird. A couple of months ago, I was trying to get a bit of money, and at the moment I'm 31,
Yeah.
and I was working for Domino's,
Mhm.
and I always remember your story that you worked for Domino's around.
It wasn't Domino's. It was a pizza company, but yeah.
Oh, right, okay, pizza company. And 30-year-old, and at that point, that's when you tried to kind of do anything you could to try and make ends meet as
That's right.
such.
Yeah.
And then I'm guessing it was around about a point that you did start to try and kind of build your life to full networking.
Yeah, yeah. I think the thing is with it is that I had to deliver pizzas to keep my business afloat. I've got a wife that was whinging, saying she needed, we needed mortgage money and this, that, and the other. And I had to find a way. And this is what we often do in life: is we find a way. And once you accept that, you've got to do whatever it takes in order to survive, it's okay. It's when we kind of allow ourselves an ego to kind of kick in. Oh, it's beneath me, it's below me, and all that. No, no, no. It's not. Do whatever it takes. And I think that this last 18 months has kind of proven that actually it's to do whatever it takes. And we've all had to, in some respects, had to reassign ourselves or recalibrate about what is acceptable and what we want to do or what we're prepared to do to keep our businesses afloat. And and what's great about having gone through all that period is that it allows me to kind of go back there again if I need to, and do whatever it takes to get the business back again on its feet.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, it's just even think about it. It does really make you think
Yeah.
on your kind of future and what you actually want to do. Now, how, the whole idea of full networking, what was the idea behind it for yourself on, right, I want to build a business, and you had an idea of doing something like networking?
Yeah, yeah.
How
So
did that come about?
yeah, so I'd started my own business off, my own marketing firm off. I'd gone along to these networking things, and none of them appealed to me. None of them. You had in political terms, you had the loony left where nothing quite happens, Shabley and Volavants and local mayor talking about parking provision. Then you've got the hardcore right. Where's your leads? Where's your referrals? You have to attend. I'm thinking, where was the mainstream? Where was the mainstream? The mainstream never existed until we created it, and that's where full networking came along. And really, we ended up, creating this network where people kind of dismissed it. And then push comes to shove, prior to COVID coming along, we was running over 5,000 business networking meetings across the UK, real life ones, face to face. And it's like, wow, so somewhere along the way we've got to rebuild, but we've got to learn on the lessons of the last 15 years and rebuild, but rebuild differently. And that's exactly where we're at right now. We've got a lot of them online. You can find it at networkcentral.biz. But it really is, it's been a really difficult, challenging times, but what's great is about being able to lean on the difficult and challenging times of the past to help us to get through this whole period.
Yeah, no, definitely. Now, just a quick bit of advice for anybody that may be watching this. Now,
Uh-huh.
Full Networking is a massive company. It wouldn't have been just a easy ride. There would have been really struggles. What would be the main piece of advice if someone is either wanting to build a business or going through something and they're really finding it challenging?
Yep. So you will find it challenging. That's what it is. An expert is someone that has made all the mistakes in a particular niche field. So when it comes to business networking, I've made all the mistakes. And that's what really makes me an expert. So the only way you can become an expert in whatever field that you're in is by making decisions. And on occasion, you'll make mistakes. But here's the thing. If you make a decision and it's the right one, it moves you one step towards success. If you get it wrong, it moves you one step towards being an expert. You've got nothing to lose. So, a mistake is only a mistake after the event. Up until that point is the correct decision. No one, including me, wakes up and says, you know what, I'm going to go and fuck up today. But occasionally I do. So you've got to be prepared to make decisions. You've got to be prepared to make mistakes. And only when you've ticked those two can you move yourself and your business forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well said, well said. Now, during Full Networking, I seen like videos and stuff of how different you looked. You had hair back then.
And 3 stone heavier.
Yeah, and the idea of becoming a motivational speaker, was that, did that just kind of happen? Was that something that you wanted while doing the business, or?
So when I first started it, I actually spoke to lots of then motivational speakers because I wanted them to represent and push the brand around the UK. But then I realised that these people didn't want to help me; they wanted to help themselves, quite rightly as well. So that's when I became this motivational speaker. I realised that no one was going to speak on the stages up and down the UK for us. So what happened is I was speaking at my 4 networking meetings day in, day out, and I was just getting better and better at speaking. I've spoke over 2,500 times in public. It's a lot of times to speak in public. Most people don't have the opportunities to speak 2,500 times in public. And actually they practiced in front of a mirror, or they practice in front of their wife or partner. And actually I practiced, in real life environments. It's a contact sport, motivational speaking. And once again, you've got to kind of die to realize how not to die. But what happened is I was speaking at events and people were saying, you're so motivational, Brad, you're so inspirational. And it was like, okay. And I kept kind of dismissing it until such a point where I thought, well, how do you become a motivational speaker? And I just made a website and said I'm a motivational speaker. And that's what you've got to do. Somewhere along the way, you've got to start somewhere. But most people don't want to start somewhere. Most people want to skip the steps and get to the top of the ladder. It doesn't work like that. You've got to get punched in the face to realize how not to get punched in the face. And that comes through practice.
Yeah, and it's like practice makes perfect.
Yep.
The first couple of times you do it, you're going to be terrible. I wonder what the first couple of speeches you did.
There's one of them that's on the internet somewhere that I found terrible, like genuinely, like embarrassing. But got to start somewhere. But at the time, I thought it was okay. And that's the thing, is as your levels,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, at this point, full networking is building. You're starting as well doing the motivational speaking. And it gets to a point where, looking at you now, you've got 2 brands.
I've got more than 2. But yeah, I've got my Network Central is the primary brand that for networking goes under. Network Central is a bit like a cheese board, really, of different cheeses, but networking style. So we've got Network Central coming, and I've got my own Brad Burton stuff and everything that's associated with that.
Yeah, so you've got like the kind of networking side of things, but you've also got your speaking, and it's not, what I've noticed, it's not like Brad Burton, I'm a motivational speaker. It's like the brand. It's not like the person. It's like a brand.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I do my kind of stuff really is counterintuitive to what most motivational speakers talk about. Yeah, you need big goals, and what you need to do is you need to make loads of money. And I'm like, honestly, like, your big goal might be somebody else's small goal, and that's okay. So I think there's been this kind of perception that everything needs to be big, and I don't believe it does. I think as long as you're happy, then that's all that really matters.
Yeah, definitely. Now, business owner, motivational speaker, but as you can tell from behind you, you're also an author. Um, what was the initial idea of wanting to write your own book?
So, like everything I've done, it's a case of really, there was no book about starting a business off. There was no book about starting a business off. There just wasn't, not an honest book about what it's like to really start a business off. And that's where Get Off Your Arse came in, which was me starting a business from 25 grand in personal debt, and actually 25 grand in personal debt and no income. So I captured what it's like to go to Coinstar machine with no money and put all your twos and ones there. And then the Get Off Your Arse 2, I looked about how your life will be steered by your background and your past. And actually, we shouldn't run away from that past. Life business just got easier. 2012, I just literally had a nervous breakdown. I ended up with success. I call it success. I was ill. At the expense of like chasing money and chasing these things. And there's a halfway house between being double wealthy and happy. And I think I've kind of found that. And that's where now what came, I'd reached a point in my life where I'd achieved every single goal that I'd set out to do, I'd achieved. And I asked that question, now what? So I've written 4 books. I've got a 5th one on my computer as we speak now, and that'll be out next year.
Amazing. And I don't know if you can, but can you tell us briefly what the new book is about?
So I'm not sure of the working title right now, which is potentially it's either going to be called The System or it's going to be called The Really Big Problem. And actually, I don't know which way it's going to go right now. And I can't say any more beyond that because I'm uncertain, and anything I say would probably end up changing. But I've got 30,000 words, and actually I need 40,000 to have it printed. So I'm not too far off now. I'm 3/4 of the way there. Just requires a little bit of work, and I'm going to be doing it this time next year. I'm going to be launching it.
Amazing. And is that, tell me if I'm wrong, is that the same kind of thing of you had it a wee while ago of be kind or don't?
Yeah, so be kind but don't is become a chapter within that. So it's not really the main story now. This is the thing. So nothing's ever wasted. I always say that about things that people, let's say you have a failed business or a failed relationship, people are then crying about the failed business and failed relationship. But I always ask this question, what have you learned from that situation? What have you learned? And I've learned so much from that be kind or don't thing, which actually has come forward and will be a chapter in the book, but it's not going to be a book, it's not going to be a full book.
Right. No, definitely. And not long ago, I purchased No1 book, and I need to get the rest. But yeah, no, definitely what's a cracking.
That's it, yeah.
It's got a lot of good advice on it as well. Now, at this point, what was your fact before we go into kind of lockdown and stuff like that? We've kind of mentioned at the start, but what was your plans kind of going into like 2020, kind of when you were in 2019, before everybody knew that there was going to be a massive pandemic?
Yeah, great question. So it really was to stabilize the network. We've had a change in management and whatever. And actually, funny enough, I'm doing what I'm doing now, which is bizarre, because this the whole 19 months as any kind of face-to-face network that we once run has gone. That's the reality of it. So we're trying to rebuild ourselves. But what I'm doing now, my focus, as you might have gathered, is I'm actually building a social media platform. I'm kind of bored of wrestling with algorithms on Facebook and LinkedIn. So my plan was to rebuild the network. I'm having to rebuild the network from a more difficult position than I would have at 2020. So, but that's life, and it's, like I say, once you've done this thing, you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from experience, which is the great thing about it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And going into the pandemic, it was, I think, straight away people thought, oh, it's going to be a couple of weeks, things are going to get back to normal. But as people started to realise the dynamic of it, things started closing, people were quitting certain things. And what was your process, like your thoughts at this point? What do I do now?
So when you've written a book on Now What, people under stress don't make great decisions. So I don't make any big decisions when I'm stressed. So we was already on it. We'd kind of recognised that this thing was back in December, that this thing was likely coming our way. I played enough computer games in my life to kind of see that these things, unless they've got a vaccine, are going to get to you. So we was already prepping for the online stuff, and within 72 hours of lockdown, we were live with that. But what happened is I went into combat mode, what I call combat mode, where you're not really thinking as clean as you would do normally, because you're acting. You know, like soldiers, they kind of had to work instinctively when you're in combat mode, and that's what we went into. Really, it was a case of let's say for the sake of this conversation, 100 and 150,000 pound a month coming in, and then it goes down to nothing overnight. That's a big, difficult pill to swallow, unless, of course, you've come from nothing and you can understand, you can get a little bit resilient, and that's what we did. So our thoughts were on survival. Our thoughts now are on entrepreneurialism. And you can only get entrepreneurial once you've got out of survival mode.
Yeah, no, definitely. Now, well, hopefully things are starting. I think it's getting to a point where we need to live with it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we don't go back into lockdown. So, what is the future for yourself? With your business, with your speaking, obviously you've already mentioned your book, but what's the kind of future plans for yourself?
One of the things that I recognise is we can't rewind, right? That causes us to have a depression, right? If we can't fast forward, that causes people to be anxious. So all we can do is press play on today. And that's what I'm doing now more than ever before. I'm asking myself a question today: what is my plan for today? And actually, I always end up kind of hitting my plan, whatever my focus or goal is for the day. And I recognise that these things that I'm doing, these kind of short-term goals, will amount to the big one, which is, so I am comfortable as one man can be in this difficult, challenging environment, that actually we're on the right road and we're going to rebuild. But it all starts with networkcentral.biz. Networkcentral.biz is the social networking platform that I'm creating. So I believe it's going to be a UK focused, giving small business a big voice, because I'm kind of pissed off with LinkedIn, I'm pissed off with Facebook, and so many other people are. So I think that that's the plan. Everything that I'm doing is really working towards launching this social media thing.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. And with for networking and stuff, are they face-to-face happening now, or is it still online?
No.
Are you planning doing it like lives?
No, we're still doing the face-to-face ones, but certainly not in the volumes that we once were. We just kind of have got sporadic meetings whilst we put the national network in play. We have a play that is going to be happening in January, February, which will start getting the network back up and running real fast. But right now, this is a case of to speed up, slow down. It's to not be bombing through, to try get it back up. What we want to do is a bit like if you're building a house. You don't build it on foundations of blancmange. You get the foundations right and then build on it. And that's what we're doing at the moment, is kind of rebuilding foundations.
Awesome. And another thing I never mentioned as well, that people might not know, is I was just kind of looking at the cover of Now What, but you've also got a Now What club. Can you elaborate on what that is?
Yeah, my Now What club is my private members club, and really what happens is I get a lot of people asking me for advice. Always, probably about 11 people a day on average, saying, "Can you help me out? Can you look at this for me? Can you do this?" And it got to the point when I was literally spending my day helping people out, and actually, that wasn't helping me out. That was causing me to have problems. So that's why I created the Now What club, for people that really want help. And actually, rather than saying they want help, they have to pay for it. It's not a great amount of money, £75 a month, which isn't, in my world, is not a great amount of money from a motivational speaker and that business support. Think about it, it's like having a business coach there for less than £1,000 a month, less than £1,000 a year. And actually somebody who's been there, done it, and got the t-shirt. And that's what really my club's about. It's about those people that really want my support, and those kind of almost that guidance, those little micro guidances that they can kind of rely on it. And it's been going for 5 years, and on January 27th, so I'm doing something right.
You must be. and I'm guessing it's going stronger and stronger as well as the time's going by.
Oh, totally. I
Um,
mean, once again, this last 18 months has been challenging for people, but we've got our team through.
yeah, yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely, amazing. Now, just kind of one or two other wee bits before we kind of wrap everything up. I know you're a very busy guy, so if someone's seen yourself
Yeah.
watching this, wanting some advice on just either if it's business or becoming a motivational speaker,
Yeah.
and looking at yourself and saying, I want to do something like Brad Burton, what would be the main piece of advice you would give someone?
So, I actually train people to become speakers. I've launched the careers of hundreds for doing that. And if you check out bradburton.biz/speak, you'll end up getting a bit of an overview about what might be a better speaker program. However, the advice that I'd give to any individual that wants to get speaking is recognize this. You might have the best story ever, but who's buying? So, I have a lot of people say, oh, I've got an amazing story. I go, that's cool. Who's buying and why are they buying it? Why are they coming to you? And then they'll give me a reason. I say, well, how much are you charging them? Well, I don't know. And actually, if you're saying I don't know, then you've not really sussed out what you're doing and how you're doing it. It takes time. It takes time. And most people don't want to spend time to get it right. They want to somehow skip the steps. And I can tell you now that you need to die on stage to realize how not to die on stage, and that is not pleasant. I've died on stage probably 100 times out of 2,500 times that I've spoke. Died. And actually, you don't die anymore once you reach a certain point. But most normal people, when they die on stage, will say, I'm never doing that again. But what you've got to do is say, okay, what did I like best about that? What would I do next time? So in answer to anyone who wants to be a motivational speaker or wants to be a speaker, why? Why do you want to be a speaker? Is it to make a load of money? Is it to change lives? Is it a combination of both? And actually ask yourself that question. Why are you doing it first and foremost? And then once you've got that answer, then you can work out exactly what the next steps are.
Yeah, definitely. Fantastic. Now, I've got one final thing. It'll probably catch you off guard. I've been doing it with all the other guests, so I would love to get your opinion on it. So it's a couple of questions. If you were to sit at a restaurant, it could be anywhere. Where would it be? So that's question one. What would you eat, and who would the three people you would sit down with for dinner? So it could be dead or alive,
Yeah,
it
get
could
it.
be celebrities, it could be anybody.
Good question. So I would suggest that the best food I've ever had in my life, was in a place near Richmond. Like I've never had food like it. Like genuinely, it's just completely like number one food, number two food. This thing was amazing. So that restaurant, whatever it was called, I had no idea what it was, but it was like a fine dining restaurant with proper portions. It was amazing. In terms of who I would have other three people, great question. I would probably go with Steve Jobs. Always fascinated me, that guy. Steve Jobs, Tony Blair, big idol of mine prior to, obviously, history hasn't been so kind there. And I'd probably wheel my dad back out. My dad's died. He died many, many years ago, 10, 15 years ago. I'd probably wheel my dad out for a dinner and just to get him up to speed with what I've become, because my dad didn't ever see me as this Brad Burton. You know what I mean? And he'd be so proud of what I'd achieved. And I think that would be quite useful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you mentioned the food, but what specific food would you eat at the restaurant?
Whatever
Or do
this
you remember what
food.
you had?
Well, listen, that restaurant, whatever it was amazing. But my favourite food is curry, madras. I love madras and peel rice.
Amazing, fantastic. Well, Brad, I just want to say thanks very much for coming on. It really means a lot. And I know that you are a very, very busy guy. But yeah, no, I just want to say thank you very much. It's been an awesome time
So,
speaking
man.
to you.
Well, listen, keep going. We've all got to start somewhere, and the fact that you've made contact with me shows that you're committed and determined to make this happen. So good on you, friend.
Thank you very much. Right, guys, I hope you all enjoyed that. Tune in next week for another episode of Motivation to Change podcast. And before we go, where can people find you, Brad?
Yeah, just Google me, Brad Burton. Find me on all the socials, Brad Burton. I've got blue ticks on Facebook, blue ticks on Twitter. Still need to get one for Instagram.
Perfect. Right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that, and take care, and I'll see you all next week.
Thank you.